Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about all things Line 6 Helix Stomp. It has been out for some time now. I got it back and I think it was 2020. So it's been probably a little bit longer than that. This thing is a really impressive piece of gear. I've got it here. And we're going to be talking about, more importantly than just like the features, is the applications of how you can use this thing as a guitar player. If you're a recording artist, if you are a touring artist, gigging artist, someone who's just using it in the bedroom, it doesn't really matter. This thing is like a really great Swiss Army knife. And so we're going to be getting into the features, how you can use it. So my channel is all things music, especially guitar, bass guitar, things like that. So give me a like and a subscribe if you want to find out more things about music. I think it helps actually to discuss ways in which you can use this thing, because amp modelers have come a long way. There's a lot of people who are purists who are like, I only want to use the amps. I only want to use like vacuum tubes, and my fuzz pedals got to have germanium transistors, all this kind of like purist kind of stuff. I get it. I get where it comes from. These babies have come a long way. They have a lot of different features that are really amazing. A lot of things that are going to be really applicable to how you're going to be playing live, and will really help you in a lot of ways when you're trying to play live, and also when you're recording. So let's dive into that real quick. So first we'll talk about applications. Application number one is you can use this thing as essentially which is one of my favorite ways to use it, which is like as a Swiss Army knife of your pedal board. So for those of you who really like using your amp, you prefer to use your amp, you prefer to have your amp mic'd up, you're playing live, or if you're playing for rehearsals, or if you're doing recordings and you prefer to have that live amp sound, you can still use this thing. So this thing has a signal chain, and the signal chain is exactly like how you would set up your signal chain on a pedal board. Only difference is you can plug in and plug out. You can do it either on the on the Line 6 Stomp itself, or you can do it on the Line 6 Helix or HX Edit. It's a software where if you hook this up to your computer, it comes with a cable. After that, you can go in there and you can edit all of the different signal chains that you have on there. So you can have up to about 140 different signal chains on here. Some you can use for bass, some you can use for guitar, some you can use even for keyboard. Now you have these capacitance reactive true bypass switches, which are really nice. And the one on the right, you can either, the one that's blinking over here, you can either have that one set up as in a different ways. You can alter this one, but one of the different ways is you can have it set up as another foot pedal, or you can have it set up, which is the way that I do, is you can have it set up as a tap tempo. So as you're playing live, if you want to tap tempo your delay pedal, you can tap tempo that one as right on there, or you can hold it down, and then the signal chain will cancel it out, and that way you can tune your guitar with a really great tuner on here, and the audience can't hear you tuning your guitar. So for example, you're in between sets and you're like, okay, oh man, my guitar fell out of tune. Let me tune my guitar real quick. You hold that button down. Now the audience can't hear you tuning. So that's $100 right there. So if you wanted to get a tuner, which is every gigging guitar player, every guitar player that's playing in front of an audience, you need to have a tuner. It's one of the most essential pedals that you can have. So for this exact reason, so that you can tune your guitar without the audience hearing you in between songs. Let's say you drop your guitar, someone threw a bottle at you, hit your guitar, now your guitar's out of tune. You don't have to worry about that, because you can, boom, pop this thing on there and tune your guitar without everybody hearing you. Hopefully your bass player, your drummer, the lead singer is like keeping the audience engaged, but that's how you do it. That's the way that I use it. But this thing does a lot more than just help you tune your guitar. But this one for me comes at the end, because I tend to use it for different delays that I don't have. So I have just like simple delays, a carbon copy from MXR, And then I've got a reverb delay pedal that I have set to reverb and delay, which is the Boss reverb. It's a pedal. It's really, really, really nice. A great pedal. And that one is like a digital delay. So if I want my analog delay, I've got my carbon copy. If I want my digital delay, I've got the reverb pedal from Boss. I've also just got like a touch of reverb on a different pedal. So those are my main staples. This one is a supplemental one. So I think of it as like a Swiss Army knife. So if I switch over to on my channel, I have like, if I know ahead of the time, like, okay, I'm going to be wanting to use a really ethereal kind of sounding delay, I can switch it over to this channel, which is so I also have it set up to FX versus direct, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So it'll say FX delay 6. So for me, that's saying like it's only effects. There's no amp modeling there's no amp in the signal chain. It's just the FX. Just like if you were to plug this guitar in, direct in, just the guitar, no amp. However, in this case, I do have an amp, so it's at the end of my signal chain. So I've got a very ethereal kind of sound right here. And again, I can tap tempo it. So I've only really have this HX Stomp right now. This is how it would sound if I was just using my amp with one of the delays on there. With the other one. So when those two combined, you have like a really clashing kind of huge delay sound. So I'll kind of slow that down so you can hear it. So if you're starting to use like a really couple of interesting like palm muted sounds, you can have that almost the edge effect where so you don't have to buy 6 different delay pedals. You have your main staple ones. Like I said, for me, that's how I do it. I have a analog and a digital. And then over here, I can dial into different types of delays that I don't want to spend $100 a pop. This thing I think costs like $600. So right there, between the tuner and then a delay pedal, you're at $200. Now, if I want to switch over to a reverse delay, which I do use in one of my songs, and then you can. This one's also a really interesting one. It's called glitch delay. So again, without it, with the glitch delay. It's like a really nice variant of a reverse delay, which over here. All right, so there you go. You don't have to buy a reverse delay. It's something that you're not really going to be using, or at least for me, I don't really use that often. So it doesn't make sense for me to buy a reverse delay pedal for $120, $130 when I can just buy this like Swiss Army knife and have that in there and go to it when I need it for that one quick bite, or that one quick, that quick sound that I wanted. So, in addition to that, you also have a different variety of other delays. So, for example, you have this like cosmic echo. And then that one's actually paired pretty nicely with this bucket brigade. So that is your run of the mill analog delay, very much based off of that MXR carbon copy. And you can hear how the difference between a analog delay and a digital delay is that the analog delay has a decay to it. So when you hear the repeat backs, they don't sound exactly the same as your digital delay. So in this case, here's your analog. Kind of slow it down so you can hear them separated. Each one that repeats afterwards is degraded. It has a really cool sound if that's what you're looking for, which I do love that kind of sound. But if you're going to compare that to a digital delay, that one doesn't have any degradation to the sound afterwards. It's an exact carbon. In this case, it'd be like an exact carbon copy. It's a replica of that sound. It's just being repeated back. So for those of you who don't know, that is the difference between a carbon copy delay or a analog delay and a digital delay. So again, this is going to really supplement your different delays that you can use or stack on top of each other without breaking the bank, without buying 6, 7 different delay pedals. In addition, for those of you guys that really like using different modulated sounds, like for example, tremolo, chorus, phasers, flanger. You have all those on here, and you don't have to spend all that money getting 4 or 5, at this point, 6 different pedals. And your signal chain is going to be a lot smaller, which I really prefer because, one, you're not carrying around as much stuff, and then 2, your sound is going to be more intact. We can also talk about true versus buffered bypass and how you want to have that set up in your signal chain. For me, I prefer to start off with something that is buffered and end with something that's buffered because it's going to shorten your signal chain and have true bypass in the middle. So let's go over to experiment with some of these tremolo sounds. So for me, I have that Boss tremolo, and I have it set to a very slow tremolo. So something that would make it sound like almost like a surf sound. Nothing crazy. You pair that with a little bit of whammy bar action. Very nice sound. And then especially if you're like playing a lead guitar position and you got the whole band in there, they're really feeling on the sound really great, and you just want to come in with that. It's beautiful. It's a very nice sound. But it also has some really fancier tremolo. So if you have this, it's called the bleeped chop tray. So it breaks it up and gives it a little bit of a rhythmic pattern, which is really nice. But something that you're not really going to be using that often, especially if you're playing with a live band. And if you're also using this in the recording studio, boom, it's right there. You just pop that on in there in your signal chain. You get some really cool sounds with it. You've also got this optical tremolo. The other great thing is when Line 6 comes out with new material and then new updates, all you got to do is plug this in, go to your Helix edit, and you can scan for a new update and then update it. The firmware will get updated, and you can also back this. So if you spent, like I have, 40 hours programming this thing and it breaks, well, it sucks, but at least you can just spend another $600 and get another one and re-download all of your pre-programmed sounds on here. So if you are not really comfortable with programming it, you don't have to worry about that. It will come stock with some sounds. It'll go after some of your really traditional sounds, and it does a really great job of it. I deleted all those and then just got my own sounds for how I wanted to do it. So at this point, we've really only covered the effects portion. So you have all these different effects. Same way that if you would have them on the different Line 6 models, but just pretty much all in one. So like the delay model, the delay pedal, the modulator pedal, the overdrive, you have all of those plus more in one pedal, also with a tuner, and then also with amp modulators, and you can use this for bass guitar, and for keyboard. So again, I think it's a really great way to save a lot of money if you're trying to like stack up and get and get a lot of different sounds available for you. Another thing that you can use this for is a direct in. So instead of using your amp, you can plug in there an amp simulation. Well, let's say you really like a Fender sound. You can put that Fender sound into the Stomp, and then you can put the different effects that you have on there. So you're a little bit more limited in that sense, because on here you can only really have 2, maybe 3 different effects that are selectable, meaning that you can take them on, you can put them in, and you can put them out. Same way that you would be able to do with a guitar pedal. But in this case, if you were to put it in the beginning of your signal chain and then put your pedal board afterwards, well, now you have your pedal board plus the maybe 1 or 2 or 3 that you have on here. Let's say that you always have your reverb on. Well, you can have the reverb set to on and then program the foot switches so that they will turn on and off the distortion or overdrive, and then maybe that delay that you really like that's on here. And then you can go to your pedal board for the ones that your different effects that you go to more frequently. So that's how I use it. There's a lot of versatility to this thing. And then you can also use it for, like I said, for recording. So you can plug that directly into your interface, and then that'll go into your digital audio workstation. And then from there, you can treat that as though that you were using it as a normal inputted sound from your guitar. So in this case, I'll show you guys a quick little chord progression from my amp being mic'd up, and then we will compare that to that same chord progression, but directly inputted from the Line 6. So we're getting this spring reverb sound from the Line 6, and it's just the effect. So that's being run through my amp right now. So right now I'm just going to do like the pure amp sound with the guitar. Over here on the neck pickup on this Strat. All right, cool. So now we're going to add that reverb, and then we're going to compare this afterwards to the direct in from the Line 6, and we're going to get as close to that sound as possible and see if you guys can tell that difference between the Line 6 being direct in versus an amp that's mic'd up. All right, cool. So now let's switch over to the Line 6 direct in. See how that sounds. All right, so this amp setting is pretty similar to how I have my amp set up, and I can't hear it, so I'm just going to go based off of what I can see on my digital audio workstation. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm using Fruity Loops. So I have the volume set to mid-range and just put on that same 63 spring reverb, and amp settings are pretty similar to exactly how I have it on my Blackstar. And so let's hear how that sounds. So as you can see, you can use that for recording just by swapping out one cable for another. I was able to go straight from an amp sound to this. So it's a really great piece of gear. I love this thing. I've had it again, so I've said it's actually be closer to 4 years now, and as long as you take care of it and you know don't drop it or anything. I've taken it on shows. I've taken it back and forth from my studio to my home, and it's a great piece of gear that serves a lot of different functions. So actually, we'll pop in a bass real quick, see how that sounds on bass. All right, yeah. So you can also assign this thing some different effects on the foot switch pedals. So if you wanted to engage, disengage, take off that those effects on there, you can do it. But I don't like using effects on bass. All right, so we got this thing plugged directly into the line 6. It's it's one of those Sterling Music Man. It's not like the really like expensive ones, and it's going straight into the audio interface, and then right over here I can see it on the digital audio workstation, which in this case would be Fruity Loops. So let's give it a listen on bass over here. All right, so I'm wrapping up this video on the Line 6 Helix Stomp. It's the HX Stomp. So for those of you guys who already have one, didn't think of all these different applications that you can use, definitely start thinking about how to implement this into your pedal board, how to use this as a extra recording device. And for those of you guys who don't have one, and you're like, hey, that the HX, like the really expensive one that's like $1,700 right now, you're like, that one's too much money, but I don't really know if this one's going to be worth it. It's definitely worth it. So between all the different foot pedals that you can program into this, using it to augment your audio production, using it to augment your foot pedal board, and then also using it when you're doing live shows and someone's like, hey, you know what, we really prefer that the guitar player goes direct in. This is going to serve that. You just kind of switch that around with your pedal board so that this is in front. So many different applications that you can use for this thing. Highly recommend that you guys get one. So with that, we'll be wrapping up. If you like the content, if you want to see more, subscribe, like, give me a comment on different things that you guys also want to see. All right, so I'll be signing out right now. See you guys.